As a filmmaker, every single piece of gear you use contributes to your vision somehow. The lenses you choose govern at the very first stage how you add character to what it is you're filming. Things, people, places, they're all characters in a world that you create. They can be dreamy and smooth, or they can be tack sharp. They can be neutral and clinical, or hazy and characterful, or in most cases, somewhere in between. The subject in your project can be one with their background, or they can be a dimension beyond, a slice above their surroundings. Now, the larger the aperture, the greater the possibility to A, shoot in low light, and B, create a narrow region in front of your camera that's in focus, while the rest of the world fades away into oblivion, and all that matters is what's in focus. But where does the Walimex/Samyang Rokinon 35mm T1.5 fit into all of this? Let's find out. This lens is the cinematography sister of its photography equivalent, the 35mm f1.4. Why do they use the T number instead of the F number? Well, the F number is a mathematical construct. It's a calculation. The T number, on the other hand, is a measurement and more accurately represents the amount of light that actually passes through the lens, making it easier to match exposure between different focal lengths on set. So, let's say the cinematographer or the director decide to change the focal length of a shot. As long as the T number is matched between the lenses, the exposure will be matched as well. And surprisingly, the F number does not guarantee that. Now, here's an open secret about this lens. It is exactly the same as its photography counterpart, with just a few minor differences in features that are helpful for video. The focus and aperture rings are geared, unlike the photography lens, which on set is a great thing. It allows you to attach a follow focus. But if you don't like the extra fiddly bits and you like to travel light with your gear, it does get mildly irritating to use without a follow focus over a couple of hours, mostly because of the kind of toothy structure and texture to it. It has a declicked aperture ring which allows you to change the aperture with practically no sound, and because it's declicked, it has no discreteness to the changes you make, so it's all continuous, which makes fine-tuning your depth of field and exposure quite good actually, especially if you're using histograms or false color to set the exposure properly. The main selling point of this lens is the aperture. Wide open, that gives you the flexibility to shoot in very low light, and this makes it one of the best budget options if you're looking for a relatively wide option on a full-frame sensor or a more tighter normal field of view for APS-C and Super 35mm sensors such as the 6K. Now, at the 350 to 400 euro mark, this lens isn't as cheap as a Nifty 50, for instance, but then again, it can do so much more. It is heavy and feels very well built, but many users report that the focus ring becomes a little less smooth over time. Of course, this lens is completely manual and has no electronic features whatsoever. I picked this one up for 170 euros with an EF mount for my 6K, where it's more like a 55mm, but I still do use it with my Sony A7S series camera with a Comlight adapter, and it delivers full frame coverage. Personally, I love this lens. I mean, it gives me confidence to shoot in available light, and I really like the ability to change the exposure so freely. I mean, you don't have to be at T1.5 or T2, you can be at T1.6 or 1.7. I haven't really gotten the opportunity to use this on set as I've had to postpone most of my documentary projects because of the pandemic. So I've mostly been running and gunning for personal videos, which makes focus pulling by distance a little bit harder as the focus and aperture markings are on the side. I mean, it makes sense. Normally the focus puller has to do that from the side, but I found that using focus peaking generally helps when I'm having that problem. And the other thing is that the focus ring is not linear, but that of course is a very minor complaint and varies even between very expensive high-end cinema lenses, so that's fine. Overall, my experience of using this lens has just been generally quite positive. And is it the best 35mm prime lens out there? Well, not really, not even close actually. but it's super duper affordable and adds a lot of value to your arsenal of equipment, I feel. It's wide enough to capture your subject as well as the space that they occupy and lets in a ton of light. But what I really love about the lens is the value it delivers at the price point. It frees you up so that you can invest in a good quality mic, some lights, and still have some change left over. I love when companies do this sort of stuff, making affordable gear that genuinely allows a new wave of people to be able to express themselves. It makes the world a better place, I feel. If you know someone who works in either of these companies, Blackmagic as well, because it's more or less the same philosophy, I have to say to them, thank you. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.